Big Ten Plus 4 is a member of Odd Pods Media and ASAP All Sports All Plays Network.
Hey there, how's it going? Big Ten Plus, we're back with yet another episode this week. We're college sports with a Midwest perspective, blue collar and blue blood. My name's Dalton Shetler, glad to have you with us. Over there is Sam Sprunger, and both of us together, we're trying to just find a way to beat the heat, man.
Holding tight.
Yeah, no kidding. It had been really, really down in the 70s. Things have been kind of nice, at least up here in Michigan. You're in Ohio.
You can say it. We were spoiled.
Yeah. Now, and look, I'm not going to complain because I'm the one come December, January, February who's going to complain about that. Yeah.
Aww,
so
all punkin.
But boy, this has been something, and I know you've had your own struggles.
Well, a couple of nights ago, the Midwest portions of our conference area got hit really, really hard with some severe thunderstorms and some really bad winds. Like I saw that there was a registered 98 mile an hour gust of wind in Fort Wayne.
It's throwing harder than
that's equal to a Category 2 hurricane. Like
wow, I was thinking like it's almost a Aroldis Chapman fastball.
Yeah, well, it's an off-speed pitch from Chapman, you know. But no, I mean, we're used to, severe weather, but when it gets to that, like we lost power in our house for almost 24 hours simply because those hard of a winds came through and ripped down one of the power towers. I don't know that's the technical term of it, but
it's a Cedar Point ride.
Yeah, well, yeah. So like, yeah, we struggled a little bit past couple days because of the heat on top of that. So yeah, now my venting session is over.
I was gonna say, and of course you had a generator. You were telling me all this before we got on air, and you have a generator for that one instance, and you're going through it, man.
And it broke down on me on the hottest day of the year to date. Now, don't get me wrong. I know some people that live in like Louisiana and stuff. They've already experienced this like 17 times from Tuesday. But, Midwest, we get all the seasons in a week.
Yep.
Couple days, whatever.
So true. So anyways, hopefully everybody else is able to try and survive this heat too, and maybe hopefully have a little better luck than Sam over there.
Yeah. You can send your thoughts and prayers to me all you want.
we got a bit of a smorgasbord episode for everybody out there today. We got a couple of different topics we're going to be kind of weaving in and out of, and I think honestly maybe one of the best places to start is we're talking about the heat. Heating up right now is college baseball in the College World Series. No Big Ten in this thing, but I still think there's enough interest, and especially when you talk about the Midwest. And maybe I'm off here, but I believe for the sport of baseball, the Midwest has to have the most passion in just the game of baseball, that regardless of levels. So I do think people start to get around their radios and around their TVs this time to watch the final 8 teams there in Omaha. And as I said, there's no Big Ten teams left. Only 2 Big Ten teams made the tournament in general. That was Michigan and Maryland. Both of those two lost in the first weekend, and still a little controversy around both of those losses.
And the team that beat Maryland, UConn, made it to Game 3 of the Super Regional. And Stanford is the number 2 team in the bracket.
Mm-hmm.
And now, granted, they got beat 10-5 in Game 3, but UConn put a scare into Stanford at least. So at least the team that took down a Big Ten team pushed it to the limits. I thought maybe they'd get to Omaha. That'd have been exciting.
Yeah, no kidding. And you bring up Stanford. Stanford is going to be starting off with Arkansas in that bracket. And then you continue to look in that bracket, and you have Ole Miss down that way. That's going to be playing against, my bracket says either Auburn or Oregon State. I don't know why it says that.
It's Auburn.
Auburn.
You probably caught one that was before yesterday or Monday's game.
Yeah, must have. I should have checked that before we hit the air. So
Stanford and UConn played before Auburn and Oregon State did and finished before that. So it would make sense that maybe you caught just a late one.
Yeah, I got an old bracket.
And looking at this final 8 teams, if this were next year, I believe there'd be 5 SEC teams in the World Series.
Well, yeah, because let's look at the other side real quick. Texas A&M will take on Oklahoma, and then Texas will take on, I suppose, the Cinderella
surprise.
Of this whole thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Knocking off number 1 Tennessee. And I caught glimpses of those games. I was actually at a wedding over the weekend when these games were being played. So it was kind of
the
dabbling
bride
in and
walking down the aisle when you're like, holy crap.
You got to catch this college baseball action as I'm sitting up there.
You got to catch it when you can.
But it was insane to kind of to watch and I suppose rally around, because I know, look, Notre Dame often plays villain in college sports fandoms, but there seemed to be a swagger or attitude. Yeah, there seemed to be a swagger or attitude around this Tennessee team that turned a lot of people off, and just their dominance. People usually root against teams that are overly talented and overly powerful, but there are a lot of I suppose on the field, off the field, just moxie from this Tennessee team that turned people off. And I think Notre Dame actually had some supporters this time.
I wouldn't argue with that. One thing that I keep thinking is how big of an upset is this? Was there anybody? Now, I heard a couple of people going, given the, I don't want to tick off a bunch of Notre Dame fans by saying, yeah, Notre Dame's got a shot, but I don't think they will. Was there anybody actually thinking Notre Dame would win this series?
From excuse me, from what I've been able to gather, no. Like the experts did not believe it.
There was no thought that Notre Dame was going to maybe take a game, but they were going to lose in 3. I mean, there just wasn't any doubt in many, many, many people's thoughts that Notre Dame even had a shot to beat Tennessee. I mean, they were like, well, they made it to the super regionals, and that was kind of like, oh, hey, good job. Now they made a lot of people eat crow.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know what? I'll root for Notre Dame in baseball.
We found the sweet spot that Sam can participate in.
Yeah. They ain't done nothing to me baseball wise, at least that I can remember.
So Notre Dame, Texas, and of course Texas A&M and Oklahoma. So that'll be fun to follow throughout the weekend, and a little bit more, I suppose. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that it's just, I don't know. There's Texas A&M used to be a Big 12 team. They're now an SEC team. Oklahoma is a Big 12 team. Is going to be an SEC team. Texas is the same. Arkansas. Then you have Ole Miss and Alabama playing each other. There's many reasons in my mind as to why people dislike the SEC if they're not in SEC country.
Absolutely. So that's 5 of them, right? Yeah. Is that what you said?
Right. Yeah.
Well, actually, between Texas A&M, Oklahoma, if let's count Oklahoma and Texas as SEC just for this.
Oh yeah, there's 6. Practice. I'm sorry, isn't there
6? That's what I was going to say.
I missed Arkansas. That's what I did.
And then you have a Pac-12 team in Stanford, and you have a ACC team in Notre Dame.
Dalton, it'd be an SEC.
Yeah, I noticed I walked into that trap, and
an ACC team.
And ACC is correct. Thank you, teacher.
Technically, it would be an SEC team if we were talking about one, but we're not. Yeah. I used to be an English teacher. Okay, I had a sign above my podium where it would stand. It would be right above my head that said, "I am silently correcting your grammar," and kids knew it. So
that is funny.
Yeah. So I just called you out is all I did there.
Yeah, that's good. At least you're straightening us out. We're
early in the morning.
But nonetheless, like, in terms of college sports, I suppose just events, where does the College World Series rank for you? Because you're a baseball guy in general.
And yeah, I have always been a baseball guy, and I tell you what, the College World Series was never something that I got into, only because, and there's an explanation as to why.
Okay.
And I've explained to you why I hate Notre Dame in football. because growing up I did not have cable TV. And the only time and not every single football game was on TV like it is now.
Right.
And the only time I got to watch Purdue because they were a dumpster fire was when they played Notre Dame every other year at Notre Dame Stadium. And Notre Dame would subsequently just pummel Purdue. And so therefore I hate Notre Dame. Well, I didn't get a chance to get into college baseball as much simply because I didn't have the access to it. It wasn't, when I was younger, it wasn't covered hugely anyway. Maybe the final, like the college, like the championship game of the College World Series would be on ABC on a Saturday or something, but I didn't get into it. I'm not close enough to a college, or I didn't grow up close enough to a college that played baseball. And so college baseball really wasn't a big thing for me growing up. Now, as I've got older and have been able to experience more college baseball in person, on TV, that things like that, it's probably in the realm of college sports. Honestly, it's number 2 behind March Madness.
Okay.
I'm saying that, putting it over the college football playoffs, just because it's a week and a half long event. And so's the college football playoffs, don't get me wrong, but it's in multiple places. You have to travel to get there. You go to Omaha every year for baseball. You know what I mean? There's a venue that's built specifically for the College World Series. I love that. So I would say it's number 2 behind March Madness, because who doesn't love March Madness? Come on.
Yeah, no, it's interesting though, because it to many folks who are in Nebraska and in Omaha, kind of lacks the nostalgia factor, just because there was such a lack of exposure at that time, like you're talking about. But it has all the pageantry and sets up so nicely that it's iconic, and so that's interesting. Okay, we'll switch.
Where would you rank the College World Series? Number 3?
Probably number 4,
behind the Frozen Four.
I got the softball College World Series just ahead of the baseball College World Series. And then
now, is that just, if this were 2 years ago, would you have it number 3 in front of softball? But like, softball's on that upswing, or has it been coming for a while?
This is interesting, actually. So softball, I had not paid enough attention to, and not only just because like I started to get involved with college softball and kind of looked around and was like, whoa, this is really cool. And just because I was in it, but like I looked around and I'm like, oh, this is a fun game. Like, and part of the exposure is part of that conversation too. A lot of like Big Ten games, if you wanted to watch them on TV, they're on BTN Plus. A lot of them are. Yeah. So like you had to kind of go out of your way to make that happen. Where a couple of years ago, before I even really got involved with college softball, you'd watch the College World Series on TV and you're like, oh, this is exciting. And it kind of just burst into, you know what I mean? It went hand in hand with me actually starting to get involved and starting to realize just how awesome this is. But kind of back to your point about exposure. So.
Well, and I love the difference. I mean, we're not arguing by any means. No, but the difference that you would put softball 3rd and me putting baseball, before softball, let's say, just between the two, simply because I'm coming from a fan's aspect and you're coming from somebody that covers it. Yes. So, and it's not like, well, I cover it, so it's great. No, you really enjoy it because you've been exposed to it because of your coverage. And now all of a sudden you would say, absolutely, it's over college baseball.
And it's interesting too, because I think you talk about the fan perspective. I think you really cover the traditional baseball fan in a lot of different ways. Yeah. And I think, especially as you talk about, baseball's always trying to fix itself, right? And try to appeal to a younger demographic because it's a little bit more stale and it takes so long and whatnot. Softball can bring you aspects of baseball at a quicker pace. It keeps your attention better, and the games are more concise. So in that way as well, it's an energized version of baseball. And I think that appeals to a lot of folks too.
But Dalton, you don't understand When I tell my wife I'm watching the game, honey, she knows automatically right away that's 3 hours plus. Okay? Come on. That gets me out of doing mowing the lawn and trimming and so I'll take 3 hours.
See, I'm just a 4-year husband vet. I'm still trying to iron out some of these kinks here. That's
I was say we're going to be 17 years in July, so
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah. Well, I'm totally married up, and I tell this to everybody, so I'm shocked we made it this long. I'm surprised I haven't screwed it up yet.
Yeah, very good.
And I guess if I haven't yet, does that mean it's no, nothing's foolproof. Huh?
Very true. All right, let's go to the second quarter.
Second quarter coming at you. You know what that is? That's just me, wasting time.
Yeah, totally understood. All right, we're going to get into the NBA draft a little bit here, and I know we've talked some NBA draft before, but this is the last time we'll get to talk about the NBA draft before it happens, because next week's show, next week's show will actually be just after the draft when it releases. So kind of looking at where some of these Big Ten players might end up, Jaden Ivey, his basement, and again, Jaden Ivey's the top Big Ten.
So his basement, meaning the lowest anybody's projecting him to go.
Correct. The lowest I can find is 4 for Jaden Ivey. The absolute highest I've seen is 2. But I've only seen that on one mock draft, and I think 3 or 4 is more comfortable for Jaden Ivey.
I saw, and I know it was because it was before the lottery, but I saw some, crazy person saying that he's the number 1 pick, and I'm like, as much as I would love that, he's not going to be the number 1 pick. I mean, it's Orlando is number 1, correct? They're at number 1, correct?
Yes.
Okay. They don't, not that they don't need, they're not picking number 1 because they don't need anything, but they need more than a point guard or a small guard like Ivey. They need a transitional player. They're not taking somebody like that. So I would agree that as much as I'm not a huge fan of Sacramento, that's probably where he's going to end up. And what, Houston picks 3, so it would be Houston or Sacramento is kind of where he's getting put into.
And it's interesting because I'm pulling up a mock draft here just so we have the NBA teams. Magic are first, and then second is the Thunder. And a lot of the mock drafts I see are kind of between either Chet Holmgren or Jabari Smith, going 1 or 2. Chet, the big unicorn from Gonzaga after the freshman year. Jabari Smith, the big guy from Auburn. So when you think about it, Jaden Ivey is the top guard in this draft because the other guy he's kind of working with there in that 3-4 spot of the draft is Paulo Banchero, who's another forward from Duke.
Which I think Orlando should go that way, personally. He is just ready to play. I mean, he's at least to me right now, and I've said this before, and to you, I just see him as being ready to play now. Jabari Smith's great. I think I just think Banchero is just a little bit more polished and ready to produce now.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I'm not sure I would really disagree with what you're saying, but when you think about, as you said, Orlando kind of needs a transitional piece.
Yeah. You see Jabari as more of one than Banchero?
I almost see
Or is it potato tomato?
I think Chet's upside.
Really?
I mean, you're talking about somebody who he can handle the ball. He's got the size. He can shoot like Kevin Durant. He's even skinnier than Kevin Durant. There's reason for concern, but if he hits his ceiling, what that could do for a franchise like the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, and see, that's why the only reason why I balk at that is because I am still not 100% convinced at Holmgren. I think that could be fantastic. He could be that transitional player that we're talking about, or he could be Adam Morrison. Just
no, it's
me.
fair. It's
So
fair.
and I guess maybe it's because I've been around long enough to see Adam Morrison turn into, this, oh my gosh, he's a can't miss, and then all of a sudden, you don't even know where in the world he's at.
Right.
And it's within his career span, so that's
Right.
why I'm a little hesitant yet to say something on whether I think Holmgren is going to be fantastic or not. I could see him being good. It's just a matter of, does he translate from college to the NBA game the way that makes him a successful player?
And to be fair, I think the basement to ceiling on Holmgren is much wider than like Smith. Like
yeah.
But if he I think,
But
especially
if he hits, it's higher than Smith.
Well, in today's NBA, where free agency is such a big part of how you build teams, and like there's no guarantees that you get to keep players, like you almost just roll the dice. To me, if you're in that position, hey, who has the absolute best ceiling? Like what? Let's kind of go for it, because what does Orlando really have to lose? Even if they get Chet or Jabari, it's possible that after a few years they leave anyway. So like, I almost would just roll the dice and kind of see where it takes you from there.
Kind of like the Shaquille O'Neal deal.
Yeah.
But did you, and this is going to be a total tangent here.
Okay.
Have you seen, I want to say, I don't know if it was a 30 for 30, but I'm pretty sure it was, about that whole Shaq at the Magic leaving and going to the Lakers deal. Like there were things that Orlando basically coughed it up. Like they fumbled the ball. He wanted to stay in Orlando. He was waiting. I mean, like it was a matter of, hey, I'm going to make my decision by this point. You have to have it in. And Orlando didn't give like they wanted to. It's been a little while since I've seen it, but I'm sitting here watching it going, oh man, if they would have just held on to him. I mean, people made the thought of Hardaway and O'Neal button heads, and that wasn't actually a big
thing
deal comparatively to Orlando just not giving Shaq a. How do you do that? How do you, especially if you want to keep him? How do you well, it's comparative to the Cubs and the Braves back in the early 90s when Greg Maddux was a free agent. He had an offer to go to the Braves. He wanted to stay in Chicago, told the Cubs as much, gave a hard deadline. The deadline passed. He signed with Atlanta. And then 10 minutes or something like that after he announced he was signing with the Braves, the Cubs came through with an offer. Stupid Tribune. But anyways, that it's kind of along that realm. And just to think how markedly different NBA history would be if he would have stayed in Orlando,
No, it's a very fair point. Real quick, I was jumping back to the Big Ten for just a moment.
Sorry about the tangent.
So I think we're comfortable with Jaden Ivey at 4 going to Sacramento.
Yeah.
And there he pairs up with De'Aaron Fox. I mean, that's
comfortable in Sacramento. But yes, I'm comfortable with the number spot, because you know what? Somebody could blow him away. What if the Pacers decided, you know what? We're going to trade up to the 4 spot. Then he's still going 4, but he's going to a different team,
a better situation.
Yeah. And you know what? I've heard, I don't know that that's happening, but my buddy said he had seen a couple of reports that the Pacers were at least testing the waters to move up. I don't know if that meant to 4 for Ivey, but he was relatively happy at the prospect of, if they trade up, they're getting Ivey. I'm like, well, let's hold. Because if they jump into the 4 spot, you may be right. But if they trade up to number 6, I don't even know where the Pacers draft. But if you go anything lower than number 4, you ain't getting Ivey.
Well, I love too. So many Pacers fans are just like trying to get to Jaden Ivey. I've been hearing that all over social media.
I even had one friend text me and say, so if the Pacers happen to get Ivey through trades or whatever, they could draft 3 Purdue players this year, because they're talking about interest in Trevion Williams, and Sasha's out there and they need a shooter. I'm like, good Lord, seriously?
Well, and I feel like Pacers fans do this all the time. Like Oladipo is coming out of college. Oh, we got to get Oladipo. Like they're just so obsessed with what's already in the state and just elevating it.
Dalton. You're talking about the franchise that wanted to lynch the GM. I can't remember off the top of my head the GM back in the late 80s when they drafted Reggie Miller over Steve Alford. They wanted him dead. Donnie Walsh. I knew I'd remember. They wanted to hang him for it because they didn't like the fact that they didn't draft the hometown guy. I think it worked out for Pacers fans.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. And again, and I know we're getting way off on a tangent here because we jumped to the Pacers, but the Pacers Reggie Miller put them on the map in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't anything else. It wasn't coaching. It wasn't anything else. The Indiana Pacers were behind the Hoosiers in popularity. Now, that still may be the case, but it's a heck of a lot closer now than it was. And Reggie Miller is the reason for that. Like, that's, absolutely a great career. Just the stuff that I saw Reggie Miller do, amazing. And I'm glad they took him over Steve Alford because Alford's been out of the NBA for, 3 times as long as Reggie Miller and has coached at 17 colleges, which I'm not damning him for that. I'm just saying he's been around the country coaching basketball, and Reggie is a Hall of Famer.
No, it's very true.
So, cool your jets, Pacers fans.
So we're looking at Jaden Ivey going forward to Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
The next pick, I think we might see a Big Ten guy off the board as well at number 5, the Detroit Pistons. And this is where I like who I think might have maybe the best career out of all these Big Ten prospects, Keegan Murray to land.
Mm-hmm. I don't mind that, except for are him and Cunningham kind of the same?
So Cunningham is a little bit shorter. Cunningham's got a better outside shot, where Keegan
Murray. So he's going to be a guard, and Murray would be a forward, kind of.
Yes. So Cunningham would probably be the 2. Murray would be the 3.
Okay.
And I think that helps.
That would be a great dynamic then. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You put somebody like Cunningham at a guard spot, you're going to get smaller people normally. Smaller people guarding you. You can take them off dribble, shoot over them, whatever. But you have Murray who can do basically the same thing to bigger forwards, just pull them outside a little bit and dribble by. So I think that could be a heck of a 1-2 punch in Detroit if that happens.
Yeah, so I like that move. And then you keep moving down. I got to see what team. Oh, that's right. At number 10, it's possible we see another Big Ten guy off the board, Johnny Davis. But it sounds like a lot of the mock drafts have moved him just 1 tick down to number 11 to the New York Knicks. And that's where a lot of people have Johnny Davis going as of now.
Okay. Who's number 10?
Good enough. 10's the Wizards.
I don't have a preference on where he goes then. I have a New York Knicks hat, but it's only simply because, and I know Pacers fans are going, I went to New York City a couple years ago, and I have a really fat head. So we were down in Times Square, and I went to Lids, and I wanted a hat that said New York, but didn't say a team necessarily. And it's bright orange. I love orange. So it's got orange on the back, navy in the front, and it says New York. And on the back, it has an NBA tag. I got it for the color and that fit my fat melon and said New York on it. It's the only reason. I'm not a Knicks fan, so I don't care.
Oh, you should have gotten a Yankees hat.
Yeah, that would have been a wise choice, right?
Oh, I thought you were gonna. Okay, I was gonna say, where was the sarcasm? I was like, boy, I figured you'd be caught dead before you.
You caught the eye roll, right?
At the very end, but honestly, you sold it pretty well in the beginning.
No, I will never don Yankees stuff, Dalton.
That's what I figured. Number 14, the end of the NBA draft lottery. It looks like another Big Ten guy will actually kind of stay in his own state border. In Ohio, Malachi Branham, they're saying, is going to go to the Cavaliers. That's where most of the mock drafts have him as of now. A lot of people like his upside.
I like his upside. Honestly, out of the 4 that are being you've kind of sold me a little bit on Keegan Murray, but I'm telling
you, I like Murray.
I'm not saying that he's not going to be good. I really like Branham though. I would say Branham's number 2 behind Ivey in my thoughts, and you like Murray over Ivey. So I mean,
Look, in the biggest and stockiest league in college basketball, Keegan Murray found a way to beat all the bigs at the rim night in, night out. That's got to translate to the NBA. He will live around the rim. He's able to drive.
No, I'm not saying that. I just think it's when I watched Jaden Ivey do the same thing, and he's much shorter, and I don't know. I guess it's a matter of preference, I guess, because they literally could turn out to be almost similar in their success as pros.
And I'm not against Ivey or anything, because I think this is one of the most I think this is one of the most talented. Actually, we've talked about this before. This maybe is the most talented Big Ten NBA draft class in the last 30 years.
Yeah. I can't recall one. I can recall really big names coming out, but they weren't all in the same draft class.
I believe there's. When I was looking this up, the last time that 4 Big Ten players went in the top 14 of an NBA draft, I believe was 1990.
Oh, goodness. Wow.
Let me pull that up here. Hang on.
1990. That'd be what, 32 years ago, right? That happened. And that's not Calbert Chaney. He was a little bit older.
So at number 5, you had Kendall Gill.
Oh, okay. Okay, duh. Yeah. Rumeal Robinson probably was in there. Glenn Rice.
Rumeal went 10. No Glenn Rice.
Oh, no, Glenn Rice went to the Heat. So if it wasn't
Willie Burton, the Gopher, at number 9.
Oh, my gosh. I forgot about Willie Burton.
And Loy Vaught at number 13 from Michigan.
Loy Vaught.
So,
wow. Yeah.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, well, and back then I don't know that the top 14 was the lottery. Had they expanded at that point?
I wasn't sure, so that's why I was careful and not use the word lottery. I just said 14 because I wasn't sure either.
Right. Well, that's just it. Is the lottery now is 14 picks, whereas when you go, wow, that's a long time. I mean, I was I'm not going to date myself or anything. I was 11, but I don't remember that. I remember all the players now that we've named them off, but I wouldn't have been able to pinpoint that.
If we take a look at the rest of the first round real quick before we hit halftime, there's a couple other prospects who I think have a chance to go in the first round. You have E.J. Liddell from Ohio State. He might have the best chance to still go in the first round.
I would be surprised he doesn't if he doesn't.
Caleb Houston's name's been tossed around a little bit, the freshman from Michigan. And I've seen Max Christie from Michigan State, the freshman, his name tossed around a little bit. I thought I saw him
near the bottom of the first round, but still in the first round.
I've seen a pretty high variance for him. So I've seen sometimes he goes early second, sometimes even early to mid second, but I've seen quite a few with him in the first. A lot of teams have been really impressed with the interview process with Max Christie. And of course, the guy's got a lot of potential. He just didn't get time to fully reach that in East Lansing, but he's built like a pro and he thinks like a pro, and that impresses a lot of franchises. But I think EJ Liddell might be the other best odd to go in the first round. And it's interesting because I was talking with Brian Kalbrowski from USA Today and asked about EJ Liddell, because here's somebody who's 6'7". In the Big Ten, I mean, he was playing stretch 4, but that's a small, big EJ Liddell. And will it translate to the NBA? Is that possible? And the scouts in the NBA seems to believe more than ever that a 6'7" big can play on the outside, and he kind of a la Draymond Green a little bit when he was talking about it. But Liddell's got a better outside shot than Draymond Green. Now, granted, you can't put Liddell nearly in the same conversation defensively as Draymond Green. You can't put too many people in the same conversation defensively as Draymond Green. But that style can fit a little bit at the next level. So a lot of teams like Liddell.
What's the I can't remember his first name. Sullinger from Ohio State. Jared. I almost liken Liddell to him a little bit. Now, it might be a better version of him, but he was a big, but he was a small big, like you said. And I don't know if maybe those are your. I mean, he was not trash or anything, but he's no longer around or anything. So I mean, could he be a combination or somewhere in between those two?
Maybe. Yeah. And honestly, Liddell, past Solinger and Green and all the other guys mentioned, he's a better shooter than all of them.
Yeah, right. And that's what I'm saying is maybe he pans out in some areas a little bit better than even better than Green in some areas. But like you said, nobody's going to match Green on his defensive stuff. It's just not happening. No matter how frustrating or whatever you think he is with all the technical fouls or anything now, the point being is there's a reason why he gets under your skin so much, and
right.
He does his job really, really well.
No, it's very true. So that's a look at some of the first round Big Ten prospects for the NBA draft.
We'll talk about the draft not next week after it's happened, but the week after in full, so we can really break down because, we record before release date, all right? So it will have not happened until the week after. Just simply put.
Yeah,
I don't mind peeling back the curtain a little bit, Dalton, to tell people what's going on so they don't think we're lazy.
Yeah, I'm totally with it. So at some point, you'll get your NBA draft recap and analysis.
The week after, we'll talk about where we were right or wrong and stuff.
That's right.
Congratulations to the Indiana Pacers on drafting Jaden Ivey number 4 overall.
I think that'll be the lead next week, just to see how close we are.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
All right, let's go ahead and hit the halftime break.
Yes, sir. You are listening to Big Ten Plus 4, hosted on Anchor and StreamYard. Hi, I'm Sam.
I'm Richie.
I'm Little Matt.
And here in the 500 Section Lounge, we are 3 dads who host a family-friendly weekly podcast.
Yep, we laugh, we go on tangents, and we talk to great guests.
Tangents? I don't know what you're talking about with that. There are gases leaking?
All right, okay.
Yeah, we have legendary conversations from sports to history and everything in between.
So be on the lookout for what we do next.
And always be there to
grab a listen.
Hey, this is Russ.
This is Kyle.
This is Michelle.
From the Infectious Groove Podcast. Join us every Monday for the most fun you can have with a music podcast. The Infectious Groove Podcast uses a positive and fun approach as we take time every week to share our jammy jams, then dig into a thought-provoking topic discussing all decades and genres of music. You can find the Infectious Groove Podcast on all major podcast platforms, or you can head to infectiousgroovepodcast.com to find us there and subscribe. We might have a controversial opinion here or there, but we always have fun with it.
Oh, I'm sure I'll say something dumb.
Subscribe to the Infectious Groove Podcast, part of the Odd Pods Media Network.
So something I thought that Sam and I could do a little bit here in this third quarter, because this is a little bit of a callback to what my headline was last week. The College Football Hall of Fame. The ballot has been released. There are 80 players on the ballot, and about 12 will make it into the next class.
About 12 or 12? Like, do they can't go over 12, but they might put in 10 or what?
12 or 13 is the rule.
It has to be that?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. So I see, that's why I was asking, because like the NFL, if they won't allow more than, 5 or 6 on the voting itself, but you can go less.
So you can vote 12 when you fill out the ballot for the College Football Hall of Fame, and 12 make it in. But there's a old time committee. All the Hall of Fames have one of those now, and that might boost it up to 13. But right now, 12.
But it's a matter of whether or not they may or may not choose somebody, is what you're saying?
Right.
Okay. So there's definitely 12, but possibly a 13th.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my understanding anyway.
Just give a little bit more clarification on what you're telling me there, mister.
I get it. All right. So out of those 80 players on the ballot, 17 of them are from the Big Ten. We went through some of it last week, as I said, part of the headline, but I'm pulling it up here in front of us. That way we can kind of go through this a little bit, because I'm curious who you think have the best chances out of the Big Ten to get in to the College Football Hall of Fame. And without even getting it in front of me quite yet, I could tell you a couple of guys that I think are towards the top. I think you look at Steve Hutchinson from Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I think you look at Antoine Randall from Indiana. Oh, here we got the list now. You have Flozell Adams from Michigan State, Larry Burton from Purdue, Kajana Carter from Penn State, Dallas Clark from Iowa, DJ Dozier from Penn State, Vaughn Dunbar from Indiana, Robert Gallery from Iowa, Kevin Hardy from Illinois. You have Steve Hutchinson from Michigan, as we mentioned. Going down the list, James Laurinaitis from Ohio State. And then you also have, Chris McIntosh from Wisconsin, Paul Puzzlusny from Penn State, Antoine Randall, Indiana, Simeon Rice, Illinois, Taylor Stubblefield, Purdue, Troy Vincent, Wisconsin, and I believe the final one is Chris Ward, Ohio State. So those are the Big Ten players on this ballot. Who do you like?
Are we talking ones that transitioned to in the NFL?
No, so that's
just college.
Yes, it is just college.
Simeon Rice, I think, is probably on the top of my list because I saw him, and oh my goodness, when he was in college, Illinois had a defense that was just fantastically anchored by him. It was one of those that you always had to know where Simeon Rice was. Paul Puzzlusny was one that I really liked at Penn State as well, and he went to the NFL and turned out to be all right, but his college was he was a really, really good linebacker at Penn State. So I would say those two are probably at the top of my list.
Interesting. See, Simeon Rice would have been up there for me, but Steve Hutchinson, like I said, to me, I mean, he as a freshman starter, he won the national title in '97, and then the last 2 years in Ann Arbor, he didn't give up a single sack. Like, I know grading offensive linemen's hard, but
it's hard.
Good Lord, look at that. Like, what do you do with that?
and you know what? And maybe it was one of those that he didn't get as much pub because he wasn't making plays, right. that I just didn't catch him as I wouldn't argue him being involved either. But yeah, those two defensively for me. But yeah, Hutchinson, I'd give him a nod. Sure.
What about
that is impressive. 2 years without a sack.
I mean, it's like you can't do your job any better than that.
Right. He kept Simeon Rice from doing something of it.
What about Randall? I know you bleed the black and gold. You're a Boilermaker, but Antoine Randall, obviously not a lot of team success, but goodness, man.
And see, I would say he was a good college player, but I know him more from what he did in the NFL.
Interesting. Okay.
And it may be because he was at IU, so I just didn't pay attention to him as much, but I knew who he was, and I knew that he was really a good quarterback, but that's just it. He was a quarterback, and he made his hay as a receiver. Like that's what he was in the NFL. So I know you said it's all college, but I honestly, to me, his career maybe doesn't stand out as big as some of the others that are on this list.
And that's interesting. I think a lot of that is part of what hurts Randall is because there was such limited team success there in Bloomington while he was there. Like, I mean, his numbers, he broke records, like college football records. He was absolutely unbelievable. I was talking with Bill Bender from Sporting News not that long ago, and he said if Antoine Randall was playing today, it'd be like Lamar Jackson. Like in the social media day and age, like we'd be talking about him like we talk about Lamar Jackson. Like he'd be one of the most exciting guys since Reggie Bush. Like he was that kind of special. Yeah. It just was at a time of little exposure and his team wasn't very good.
Well, and if you think about it, like Mark Phipps was a Purdue quarterback. He was one of the best quarterbacks of Purdue history. If you go statistically, you don't know him because he was on garbage teams, so I think Randall, like you said, falls victim to that because of that.
Well, hopefully the committee and the voters can kind of right the wrong there and get him in there because I kind of like that. This is Kajana Carter's first time on the ballot from Penn State.
He was one that I would consider too. He really didn't pan out NFL wise, but like he was a force to be reckoned with when he was at Penn State. And did he win the Heisman?
Kajana,
or was he number 2?
So.
He was in he was in New York. I know that. I know Rashaan Salam and him. I confused them often when I was growing up, but I know he was the number 1 pick in the draft.
Finished second in the Heisman Trophy voting.
Okay, so he's second in the Heisman, numbered 1 draft pick to the Bengals. I mean, that was when the Bengals were picking every other year number 1.
Right.
Not much has changed since. Huh. No, but he was pretty solid as a Nittany Lion. I wouldn't argue with him getting in either.
If we take a look at some of the other names, I'm going to move out of the Big Ten for just a moment, just to kind of help everybody understand who else is here, because it's a loaded ballot. Reggie Bush is still on this, but for reasons that aren't on the field performance.
Do you see any chance he makes it? Maybe now.
I was going to say, as quickly as some of the norms have been broken down in college sports and how the whole ecosystem and environment has changed, like Reggie Bush today is probably okay. Like,
and with the way the world has changed, I think they should give him his Heisman back.
And that's one of the other discussions too. It's really weird how we do this whole thing where we still judge people through a prism of the standards they were in during their day, or we try and apply like today's standards on people. Like, that's just a weird thing we do when we judge these in general.
I'm just being a jerk. If you're gonna, hey, guess what? They probably saw it coming back then too when they took it away from him. No, you broke the rules. We're taking your trophy. And meanwhile, they got an email saying, "Hey, this is happening. We need to do something." We'll be fine.
Yeah, that's about right.
We're busy judging people.
But Reggie Bush is still here.
Yeah.
Tim Couch from Kentucky. He's still on this list. Warrick Dunn from Florida State.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. He's got to get in, right? Like,
he has to. Oh my
Dwight
gosh.
Freeney still around from Syracuse.
That's a rough. Well, see, that's just it. Some of these were really good college players, but they would definitely make the College Hall of Fame if you put their NFL career with it.
Ray Lewis being another from Miami.
That, while fantastically talented as a college player, would you put him in solely on his college output?
Boy, he kind of, like we talk about Randall L being kind of victim of his teams not being as good. Ray Lewis was around so many greats.
That's what I was going to say.
Away.
They were so good that maybe he got it discounted. You just don't know.
Yeah. But so we'll see who those go in. I do want to mention a couple of first timers too. The first time on the ballot, again, not Big Ten related. Tim Tebow. Tim's going to go in. Like,
you think so?
Oh my God.
No doubt.
Not even a question. Like, if he's not on everybody's ballot, I want to talk to the person who didn't put Tim Tebow on the ballot. Like, it would be ridiculous.
I'm not arguing with you. I just wouldn't be shocked to not see him make it.
Then we need to start a petition for the College Football Hall of Fame.
I'm not arguing that at all. I honestly, in today's age and things going on, that I could see it being a possibility that he doesn't get in because of certain aspects of his life.
Well, we were talking with
and it's sad that potentially I could think that.
Yeah. Well, part of the discussion we had with Bill Benner from Sporting News was when we asked about Tebow, he said the Sporting News not that long ago did like the greatest college football players ever or whatever, and Tim Tebow ranked number 2 when they and it actually wasn't just the Sporting News like poll, like they asked like 80 different experts and columnists, and Tebow ended up number, I think 2 or 3. Herschel Walker was number 1.
Okay,
and Tebow was the top quarterback.
I won't argue that then. Because Herschel Walker is a man. Do you know that man never lifted a weight in his life? I'm serious.
It's just ridiculous.
Herschel Walker
I believe it during that time frame.
He did push-ups and sit-ups to make himself that chiseled. Because he said, I'm lifting every time I do it. And he never lifted a free weight. He did sit-ups and push-ups. He did like thousands of them a day and just ripped himself to what he was.
It's ridiculous.
Isn't it? Can you think about that discipline to go, okay, I'm going to do thousands of push-ups a day. Whew. So I would totally agree that Herschel Walker would be the best overall number 1 college football player ever. I agree.
A couple other first timers, real quick.
Yeah.
2 other quarterbacks. Ryan Leaf,
Okay.
first time
Again,
on this
people
ballot.
are going to tag him with his NFL.
Yes, I think so too. And I thought you were going to bring up the personal story. I think a lot of people are behind Ryan Leaf. And
I think so
recovery.
now. But
Yeah.
like anybody that doesn't know that personal story, which if you don't, it's an incredible story. To what he was at one point before coming back and being the good reporter that he is now, but yeah, I rooted for Washington State in the Rose Bowl that year, but they were also playing Ohio State, I believe. So
you'd root for just about anybody that year,
other than IU or Notre Dame.
And then Alex Smith, this is his first time on the ballot. He had a great career at Utah, and of course his NFL career really got kind of debacled with injuries at the end and suffered the horrific injury, found a way to come back from it, nearly lost his life in the process. Like, really dramatic story that Alex Smith went through, but had the great Utah career. You remember in the NFL draft, it was him and Aaron Rodgers was all the talk, and Alex Smith goes, number 1 or number 2, and
Number
Aaron
1.
Rodgers. Yeah, number 1. And
because
Aaron
it was
Rodgers
San
drops
Francisco, and that's why it was like, ooh, Rodgers could go number 1 to the hometown Niners, and then he fell into number 22 or 3.
It was in the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching
they
that.
Showed him in the
too.
green room, and you could just see the anger seething underneath. And now you see it all the time. Like when something agitates him, you're like, oh, that's draft day right there.
That's the look. Well, and so what year would that have been? Hang on, because I was watching that live. I have a vivid memory of that. Let me see what year he got drafted.
5? No, that's way too. No, 05 is what I'm going to say.
Yeah, 05 is correct. So I was 10 years old watching this draft, and I'm glad I watched it because I watched the start of the villain story. I watched Darth Vader made in a green room.
Like he was Anakin before the draft.
Yeah,
and it turned into Darth Vader afterwards.
It was incredible. But so nonetheless, Alex Smith is on this ballot too. We'll see who gets on from here.
See, now I remember Alex Smith at Utah, but I don't remember him. I mean, I remember him being good, but did he have a great career at Utah? Because a lot of times, and you know just as much as I do that they will not. You don't necessarily take the best statistically accumulated player. You usually take one, unless it's just that athlete that stands out as being head and shoulders above the rest. You take what fits your system.
Right. Let's see. Didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and I don't know that Alex Smith personally, I don't remember him being such a statistically an outstanding anomaly that they took him number 1. I think it was accessibility basically. And I thought, maybe I'm wrong.
He finished 4th in the Heisman voting in 2004, threw for nearly 3,000 yards at 68%, 32 touchdowns, 4 interceptions his final year. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, Dalton. I'm saying, was it standout all-time great season or not season, career? Just because, I mean, Hall of Famers, normally you'd have an outstanding, like, just blew doors off. Ty Detmer should be in the College Football Hall of Fame, because before, he was the all-time, leader in yardage. I don't remember if he got passed or not yet recently, but I'm shocked if he didn't. But my point is he had an all-time career.
I follow what you're saying. No, and I'm not sure Smith I don't makes know. The cut. Yeah. No, I think you're right. But the numbers give him a case, at least. Let's put it that way.
Let's say this. I'm not against Alex Smith necessarily. I don't hate him. He's not off my Christmas card list. Of course, I don't have a Christmas card list, but my point being is if I had one, he would still be on it. But I just don't know. I don't see it.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move to the 4th quarter. All right. So good echo. All right, so before we wrap up, say goodbye. This is the part where we kind of turn the spotlight on each other during the show, and I know this one might be a little bit more unique, and we were talking about it beforehand. Sam, I'll defer to you. How do you want to conduct this fourth quarter here?
Well, I have a list that I did. Where in the world did it go? Oh, there it is. No, that's not it. Oh goodness, Dalton, I lost it. I have. Oh no, there it is. Whew. I have a list of the Big Ten schools, right?
Okay.
And each school's most notable alum.
Ooh, this is a fun way to close the show.
Yeah, I want to see how many you can nail because you're pretty good. Not all of them are sports, though.
That's where we're going to be in trouble.
You're going to run into trouble, I think.
Yep.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of them are athletes.
I'm going to be bad at this.
And this isn't necessarily a grill Dalton or a shootout with Dalton. I saw this and thought, how many would you get? Because I looked at it and went, I don't even know who that person is personally, but that's me.
I'm not going to get many, but let's try it.
How about Michigan? Do you know their most notable alum? I didn't think of this person. This is an athlete. I will give you that one.
Oh, I wasn't going to guess that. Okay.
Neither was I when I saw the list.
Michigan's most notable. Well, is it Michael Phelps?
Seriously?
No,
it's not Michael Phelps.
Oh, well, he's a global. Most.
So's this one.
Really?
He's terrific.
Who am I missing here?
He's terrific.
I'm gonna need help. Give it.
Well, it's Tom Brady.
Oh, jeez.
You didn't think about him now, did you?
No, I didn't. Jeez,
so I'm sure you know Purdue's.
It's got to be. Oh, okay.
You were thinking of Neil Armstrong, weren't you?
Yes, I was. I was going to say
for Michigan. I was thinking Gerald Ford. He was the president.
That's what I was thinking. Gerald Ford, or you had James Earl Jones in there at Michigan.
This is according to, I don't even remember. I saved it instead of, and I forgot to. I believe it's Saturday Tradition. I think.
So is Purdue Drew Brees?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So that's an acceptable one. You should know Michigan State's.
It's got to be Magic.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about Wisconsin? I'm going to ask you the athletes ones.
Okay. Wisconsin. Oh boy. Is it Ron Dane?
It is not. It is a current NFLer.
Current NFL player. Melvin Gordon?
No. Defense.
JJ Watt.
There you go. JJ Watt. Now, I'm correct. He didn't start.
He started at Central Michigan.
Yes, he was at Central Michigan. I was going to say, I thought
that's a tight end.
Crazy.
I know.
This one you might argue with. I don't know. IU.
Is it athlete or no? Because I was going to say Mark Cuban.
I'm asking athletes. Yeah. And see, that would have been the one I would have said because I don't like any basketball players or anything. And this is not a basketball player either. Honestly, I do not think she attended as an athlete.
You're going to need to just give this to me.
Venus Williams.
What?
Evidently,
I didn't even know she went to IU.
Maybe she did the online version. I don't know. I'm going by this here.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, of all the people, I
was thinking Isaiah Thomas, Keith Smart.
Yeah, Steve Alford.
Yeah. Scott May.
I don't know who Paul Wesley is. Do you?
No.
Okay. Well, that's the most notable Rutgers alum. Ohio State. And I will argue that this is accurate.
Jack Nicklaus?
You nailed it, buddy.
Look at that.
I would say that's absolutely, no matter how many people went through or have come through, Jack Nicklaus is the most notable alum of Ohio State. It's yeah. So for the
this is where we're in trouble.
Yeah, I know who Pharrell Williams is. Do you know where Pharrell is it Pharrell?
I think it's Pharrell, the singer.
Okay, Pharrell Williams. Yeah.
Yeah,
He went. Do you know where he went?
No, I don't.
Northwestern.
Really?
I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Oh golly. How about Minnesota? Take a guess. A singer.
Prince?
That's a great guess. It's incorrect, but it is.
Okay.
Honestly, it is a really good guess. Bob Dylan.
Never would have known that.
I never would have guessed it either. How about Nebraska? You will have just a rich future if you guess this one right.
Buffett.
Yep.
Oh, cool. How's that?
Warren Buffett is their
Buffett.
most notable. Iowa. Do you have any guess on that one? Not an athlete.
What's the job? Do you know?
Hollywood.
Costner didn't go there, did he? That's just Field of Dreams tying it together.
Yeah. That's the only connection he has to Iowa. Actually, I don't know that, but I knew that he went. This actor went there, but I didn't think of him as being the most notable. But I wouldn't argue with it.
All right, give it to me.
Ashton Kutcher.
Oh, I think I did remember that. Yeah.
And then the last one that I'm looking. Oh, I'm sorry, there are two, but Penn State's is Keegan Michael Key.
That one I think I could have gotten.
Yeah. And any guess whatsoever. There are a lot of young men that are happy that this man went to the Illinois and Champaign.
I got
historically.
Nothing.
Okay. Well, Hugh Hefner.
Oh, nice.
So
that's good.
Yeah, I know it's not a typical headline, but I saw this and I thought I don't know that I can agree with that. It's just not. Venus Williams, while a great athlete, she didn't go to the school. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's notable, but there are so many people that went through IU. Mark Cuban's a billionaire. And
Cuban was my guess when you're like, yeah, some of these aren't athletes. I was like,
right.
Oh yeah, IU Cuban. Like I was starting to form them already.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, Paul Wesley, I guess I'd have to look it up. And there's probably people listening going, are you stupid about Paul Wesley? But I don't know who it is. And all
right, we're going to look him up real quick.
Was it Lou Brown says, I'm too old to go jumping into lockers. Yeah, I'm too old to look it up. I don't want to.
Well, I will look it up.
The young buck right here look it up before we wrap it up here.
I was going to say this will get us selling out of here. He's in The Vampire Diaries.
That would explain so much why I don't know who it is.
And Tell Me a Story.
Never even heard of it. I'm guessing we're on the same page on this one. And you know what? He may be a lovely person.
He left after one semester at Rutgers.
Oh, so you're telling? Oh, come on. That's like saying yeah, come on.
All right.
I spent a week at Michigan 1 year for baseball camp. Does that make me an alum? No.
That might have been what happened to Venus. Let's look that up too, real quick, and then we'll close out.
I'm interested in that because she didn't. Obviously, she didn't play sports there.
Why don't you let the fine folks know where they can find us, and I'll get this Venus to cap us out.
Let me fill you all in. If you look at the bottom of our screen, you have the three different things, main ways you can find and communicate with us when it comes to social media or whatever. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Big 10 +4, spell out plus Dalton. Do not put the symbol, spell it out. And then find us on Odd Pods Media. You can find the rest of the Odd Pods Media shows there as well. We're anywhere you want to listen to audio podcasts. We're on ASAP Network. We stream weekly. We also are available via video on Spotify if you so choose. You can listen to it or you can watch it. It depends on how you're feeling that day, and sometimes maybe you want to see me make stupid faces at Dalton, and other days, maybe you're just like, not today, Sam. I can't handle it. So totally up to you. But the biggest thing is just, keep listening, communicate with us. Let us know some topics if you want. So, yeah, there we go.
And I think I have the answer. Venus Williams is an alumna of Indiana University East. She completed the online portion between 2011 and 2015.
I told you.
Yep.
I was saying it kind of in jest, but yeah. So you can't. I'm sorry, you can't do that.
And it was IU East, not Bloomington.
Yeah, it's not even IU, Big Ten IU. It's IU East, which I don't even know where that's based out of.
So we reject it. We put Mark Cuban on. Actually, we go with other people too, honestly.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe next week. That's my next week. I will replace the ones that I disagree with on this.
Sam's got some homework. So we'll sign off, say goodbye for one final time. I'm Dalton Shetler. That's Sam Sprunger from us here at Big Ten Plus 4. Thanks for tuning in this week, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you later.